Hi guys, it's Christine, also known as Ivy Winter. Glad you can tune in for another video. Today I'm going to talk about being a cast member because I was many moons ago. I was a cast member, but I was a cast member in a very different situation than most people would think. You think cast member and you automatically think of the parks. Or maybe you even think of like an in-office cast member position working for the parks. I was a cast member at the World of Disney in New York on Fifth Avenue. So you might be thinking, what? Like, if you've never heard of the World of Disney that was in New York, you have no idea what I'm talking about, or why I'd be considered a cast member. And when I say a cast member, I don't mean just, a Disney Store cast member, which obviously they are cast members, but I was considered a park cast member, yet I wasn't in the parks. So how does that work, you ask? Well, because we were a World of Disney, which they have in Disney Springs, and they have in Downtown Disney and Disneyland. I'm sure you guys have seen those stores, the big, huge ones with many rooms and all the merchandise you can think of. We were a World of Disney in New York. And the World of Disney on Fifth Avenue opened in 2004 and was meant to be an extension of the parks in New York City, being that New York City is such a large city, a big tourist attraction. Aside from just the parks, you've also got ABC offices there. You've got ESPN offices there. You know, Disney does a lot of business in New York. And so they decided to open a World of Disney on Fifth Avenue, biggest shopping street avenue in Manhattan. And it made sense because at the time there was also a WB store. I don't know if you guys remember those, but they used to be in malls and stuff. And the one on Fifth Avenue was just a couple of blocks away from the World of Disney, and it was really cool and had a similar aesthetic experience of like really immersing yourself in this store that's not just products, but kind of has its own entertainment. And FAO Schwartz is like a few blocks up from that, and you know, that's a world-renowned toy store, and so it made sense for Disney to have this space there. I started at the World of Disney, or as a lot of the cast members like to call it, WOD. I started at WOD when I was in college, and I believe I started late spring of 2008. And what's interesting about that store is that you went through the same training at that store that they do in the park. And I actually still have my cast member name tag just to prove to you guys that this is true. So there you go. That is my name tag. And obviously it says Walt Disney World because we were considered a part of Walt Disney World. Kew Gardens is actually the neighborhood in Queens where I grew up and at the time was still living. So I have my own cast member name tag and everything, and of course I love this thing and like we'll never give it up. All of our merchandise was park merchandise. It wasn't Disney Store merchandise, it was legitimate park merchandise. We also had exclusive New York specific merchandise, so we had Duffy Bears that said I'm Mickey New York on it. That was our big logo. We had New York specific snow globes with Minnie Mouse as the Statue of Liberty. So a lot of exclusive merchandise that you could not get anywhere else except for at that store. We had 3 floors, and the first floor had a pin trading area. We also had a section that was more seasonal that sat on the right side. So your Night Before Christmas stuff if it was Halloween, or your ornaments if it was Christmas time. And on the left side, you had home goods. So you had kitchenware stuff and like, you know, the cute Minnie Mouse aprons and like all of that stuff. And then as you backtracked a little, you had like cool stationery. The very back of the store was all princess stuff. So we had all of the dresses, the costumes, all the accessories. We had a charm making station, which is similar to the ones that you can find in some of the stores in Disney World. Then on the second floor, you had the DVD section as you first walked in. You had a whole Pirates section. You had a make your own Mr. Potato Head section. Again, something else that was like in the parks. And I'm trying to think what else. I mean, there was just a whole lot of plush, a ton of plush. We had the big ones, the little ones, all of them. And then on the third floor, we had an Art of Disney gallery, which was really cool that we were able to have that there. So we had big figs, we had the artwork that you could like go in the little kiosk and like get prints of the kinds that you wanted. We had original art, we had everything you can think of, all the big artists that you know that like sell in the Art of Disney galleries. We had all that stuff there as well. And there was a special team that worked on that floor because they were very knowledgeable about that. Also on the third floor, we had entertainment. So we had characters. We had Cinderella and Chip and Dale and a whole bunch of characters. We rarely had Mickey and Minnie. We had the princesses and the princes, and we also used to have entertainment that walked throughout the store. So there was times that we had like stilt walkers walking around. We had pirates and character walking around and like talking to guests. It was really cool. Unfortunately, December 31st, 2009, the store closed. And we found out a good 6 months prior that this was happening. And the first thing that closed down was entertainment. And I remember how sad I was to have to tell guests who were like ready to meet Cinderella with their little girl or what have you, that Cinderella went back to Orlando and she's no longer visiting New York. And it pained me to tell them this because a lot of the parents would tell me these stories of how they couldn't afford to ever go to Disney World, or maybe they could go once every, 6 years or whatever it might be. But this was the way for them to give their kids a taste of Disney World because they couldn't afford it otherwise. It was just, hopping on the subway and going into the store. And these kids would be all heartbroken when I told them they aren't there and they're expecting it, and it was just super, super sad. And obviously as the months went by and we got closer and closer to closing, the sadder it got. We had some amazing things in the store that got shipped back. So we have this big Cinderella statue who I now believe sits at the World of Disney in Disney World. We had an amazing chandelier that came from Jim Henson's estate that hung up in there. I'm pretty sure that actually went back to Jim Henson's estate. And, starting to break everything down, and all the merchandise was being sold, especially the New York stuff was on like ridiculous sale because it was meant for this one location. What are you going to do with it? So it was really sad. I mean, we had a lot of regulars who we came to know by first names and who would say hi to us, our pin traders who were regulars, and just regular families who used to come in. And it was really sad. It was almost like sharing these last moments with them. And, people got very emotional over it because it was, although it had only been there for about 5 years, it had become like such a staple and such a piece of the parks in New York. And it was definitely an emotional time to close that store down. But I am so proud that I was able to be part of the team that did close it down because, we had to say goodbye to that and move on to the next thing, which is, now the Disney store in Times Square, which I actually helped open. Yes, I did. But, it just, I took a lot of pride in my work there. And although it was a retail job, and it's not like working in the parks where you have a lot to choose from, you can do retail, you can do food service, you can do ride operations, you only had either retail or you were in entertainment, and that was it there. Although it was a retail job, it was the best retail job I've ever had. I worked retail through all of college and part of high school. It was the easiest jobs to have, the most flexible with school, and everyone can tell you that dealing with guests, dealing with people day in, day out can be really tiring. And yes, it still was at Disney. There were still people who were rude to me, and there were still moments where I was very frustrated, but it had nothing to do with Disney and had everything to do with just the type of industry that is. But at the end of the day, I was never as upset about it, or like, I just felt like the experience there, working for a company that I really respected and loved, was worth it. Working with coworkers who I would say for the most part were really great people to work with was worth it. I mean, some of you guys know that I am friends with Keith Lapinig, who's a huge Disney YouTuber. The reason I'm friends with him is we met working at the World of Disney together, and we've been friends ever since. So we've been friends for like, Jesus, I don't know, 7 years now, 8 years now. So that's how we met. We met both as cast members there. And so I've made these long-lasting friendships with some of these people. And I always felt like when I worked at the World of Disney, the managers had the same mentality as the parks, which was sales are fine. I mean, obviously we want to sell things, but our number one priority was the guests. It was making their day extraordinary. It was getting down and talking to kids and like really making them feel special. It was, giving away certificates for birthdays and singing happy birthday and just making people feel like they had this really amazing experience just on Fifth Avenue, where there's a bunch of stuck-up, stuffy shops where people are probably looking at you sideways because they think you're going to steal something because they have fancy, product or whatever. And then you walk into the World of Disney and it feels like Disney World. And as cast members, we treated it as Disney World. That, and I will say the perks were pretty great. So I got the same cast member perks as park cast members get. So my ID was my admission into parks. I got discounts on hotels, discounts on merchandise, and that prompted me to go to Disney 2 times in 1 year, which was the first time I had ever done that. Actually, might be the only time I've ever done that in 1 calendar year anyway. And so that was really cool that those kinds of things were extended to us. We were often kept in the loop about stuff that was going down in the parks and updates on new things happening. So that was really cool too. Being somebody who grew up on Disney and grew up at the parks, it was really cool to say that I have been a part of that family. And as short-lived as it was only about 1.5 years. And even though it was in a very different environment than the parks, I'm really proud of it. Like, I love telling people that I was a cast member, not because I want to rub it in anybody's face. It's pride. I'm super proud to have been a part of that. And I know people have very mixed feelings about working at Disney or Disney as a whole, and that's okay. I mean, not everyone's going to enjoy the job, and maybe you have your qualms with certain things, but I can say as someone who's worked for the company, it didn't change my view in any negative way. If anything, it only reinforced it more positively, and it was one of the best experiences I had before working a full-time office job, obviously, in my career now. So that's it. That's what I did as a cast member. Like I said, I was sales. I was on the floor. I was often on the first floor, ringing up register. Worked in the pin trading area. Saw a lot of celebrities. That was really cool. We would get a lot of celebrities buying for their kids. So I had seen David Beckham and Mariska Hargitay from SVU, I hope I said her name right, Matt Damon, Britney Spears, a whole bunch of really cool people. So that was really cool too, which I'm sure a lot of, park cast members also see a lot of celebrities because that's just the kind of company that Disney is. They draw them in. But anyway, that is my cast member story. That's how I was one, and that's how I was one in New York, which is pretty unique compared to a lot of other cast members. If you have any questions about the World of Disney or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I would love to help answer any questions I can. Again, I was only there for about 1.5 years, so I might not know everything, but I can probably give you a few good answers. And if you had ever been to the World of Disney in New York, I would love to hear your stories and your experiences. And I miss it a lot, and I wish it was still there. And so I would love to just hear from people who have been there and who got to enjoy it as much as I did. Thanks again for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see more future videos on Disney, on video games, on just me vlogging. Follow me on Twitter at IvyWinterYT or on Instagram at IvyWinter. And that's it. That's everything I got, you guys. All right. Thanks so much. Bye.